Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark, and joining me on today's episode is Mike Beckingham, one of the best up-and-coming actors right now in our country of Great Britain. I can't stress enough how great this guy is. He's most recently been in a film called Redwood, which is starting to make some big names for itself, one of the best British horrors that I've seen in a very long time, and he's going to be starring in an upcoming film called Black Site. But I don't want to go too much into it because I'll spoil the interview itself. But it's been an absolute pleasure to sit with him, go through an interview talking about everything from the moment he was born and when he first wanted to get into acting till his most recent projects and auditions. And it's something that I think is fascinating for the listener out there because you get to hear about what it's like getting it into the industry and kind of being the underdog and trying to make a name for yourself. It's been absolutely awesome speaking to the people like Anthony Hopkins and Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith and Neil Blomkamp, but they're all established. They've got their name out there and they're very successful. It's a completely different type of interview when you're talking to someone who's trying to make a name for themselves, and I'm trying to do more of this because the stories are fascinating. It's a much more insight to their lives, and you know, you don't know anything about them right now, but you will, and it's an absolute pleasure. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. Now, before we get into that interview, what I want to kind of do is thank you all for tuning into the last episode with Rick Harper. You know by now my obsession with The Room is unhealthy. My obsession with the disaster artist, Tommy Wiseau, everything about it is getting a bit out of hand, and I'm very aware of that, don't worry. I was kind of a little bit worried when I put that episode out because it wasn't a huge name at the time. I mean, Rick Harper's making a name for himself, a bit like Mike, but they're not everywhere, and I wanted people still to tune in because I thought the interview itself was one of the best I've done. But it's not the big name like Kevin Smith or Anthony Hopkins and stuff where people are going to tune in just for the name. It blew my mind when I saw the numbers. Currently, right now, this is the third most popular episode I've ever done. It's gone bigger than some of the big names I've interviewed recently. So to know that you guys are tuning in and hearing these stories is making my absolute day. So thank you very much. Now on to today's episode. As I said, Mike Beckingham is one of the greatest guys I've met, an absolute pleasure to hang out with, and it's been great to sit down and actually find out more about what it is he wants and where he's trying to get to. So without further ado, here's my interview with me and Mike, and I hope you all enjoy. So my first question for you today is, at what age did you realise that you actually wanted to be an actor?
Three years old.
As young as that?
Yeah, I remember I was sat on my driveway in Brimscombe in Stroud, and I was on my own, and I don't know why. Oh, I do know why. It's very vivid. It's very in my head as to exactly where I was. I can still picture it now. Like I said, I was on my drive, and I was just playing my toys, and I just stopped for a minute, and I thought, I know what I want, and I know what I want to do, and because I think a lot of what you go through when you're younger, kind of resonates to your adult life. And so I've had a lot of I've had a lot of exposure, shall I say, to the arts and stuff. From when I can remember, we were messing around with a camcorder from a very young age, me and my two brothers. My dad's a musician, so all I'd ever see him do was perform music and stuff. And I think, my cousin was an actor. And so I think from a very young age, I think it was just instilled in me. I just, from a baby before 3, even though I wasn't even aware of it, I was being taken to my dad's concerts and stuff, obviously, in pub gardens, and part of that whole atmosphere of, an artistic sort of thing. And subconsciously, I think that kind of sunk in. So yeah, 3 sounds young, but to me, it was just, I remember exactly where I was and when it was. And I'm I think, quite lucky in that regard that I've known what I've wanted to do. I just believed I had something to give, and I knew how I wanted to give it,
I'm really jealous because I'm in my mid-30s and I still don't know what I want to do with my life.
Most of the most interesting people I know don't, I might be quoting Baz Luhrmann there, but that's okay, But I think you're onto something with what you're doing, and whether you're falling into it or not, I think it doesn't matter. Nowadays, I don't really buy into that whole society thing that you need to be, when you're 30, you need to be married and with a kid and stuff. I don't think that's the way we live our lives anymore. I think you can get degree via the computer at 40 years old and completely changed careers. So I think, nowadays people are a lot younger, and I don't think there's that whole living a lifestyle as a generational thing. I think you're a lot more free to do what you want. And 35 is young, man. It's young. It's not no time. You got loads of time.
So you're saying at 3 years old you wanted to be an actor, which is cool, but what age were you actually taking film seriously? Because when I was a kid at that age, I didn't know really what was going on. I'd be watching stuff like Sesame Street, but when were those films that you watched, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, stuff like that? Those are the films that I used to watch, but when was it you thought, I want to be inside the telly, I want to be that person on screen? Because at 3 you don't really kind of know.
You're right. I think, like I said to you, we as a family, because we're quite a performing family, we always did generally, because I had 2 older brothers, would be constantly with a camcorder. We would do our own sort of stop motion capture stories, and this is going back on the day when the camcorders were massive and you had to push record stop quickly and then move it a millimeter record, and it took hours to make 2 little lorries crash together with action men in them. I never feared the camera, and I embraced it. I was, you can absolutely call it, being a show off. I totally was, but it was really weird. I look back in retrospect to like photos of when I was younger, a bit older than 3, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, before my teens. And, at birthday parties, we'd all, old school, you'd all line up with your mates who have come round for like finger food. And you'd have a photo done. And then I look back on these photos and I realised that I was the one stood at the front doing a stupid pose.
Yeah.
I was the one closest to the camera. And I was doing that because I wasn't afraid of the camera. I actually loved the camera. And, I guess I was never scared of it. And, or maybe scared's the wrong word, I don't know. But just, I just loved that connection. I felt how the camera made you feel. But I was doing it subconsciously at that age. I wasn't... We'd make like little TV shows constantly. Just make TV shows. We'd make the first part of it one weekend, and the next weekend we'd film the next bit, and then the next bit. And so again, I was always had a camera sort of pointing at me a lot of the time. And whether it was doing impressions of neighbours' characters, or whether it was like a particular TV show that we did was based around a huge shotgun, and it's kind of like a Rambo-esque TV show. Where one of my brothers was a mercenary called Bogoroff, and it was all because this massive giant toy shotgun that we had, and he was this mercenary that went on a rampage, and we had like a Fireman Sam tent as the police headquarters. And
I need to get my hands on this footage. There must be out there somewhere.
Mate, we're going back to like totally, but there will be footage of this. But we're going back to the time where you would have like. Like the mini cassette tape that goes into the bigger cassette tape.
Incredible.
That then goes into the VCR.
Yeah.
It was those. So they're in a box somewhere in this world, but no idea where. But if I find them and restored them, it would be great. There was the 2 investigators that were investigating Bogoroff were the Reverend Windpipe and Clint Training Shoe.
Wow.
Those were the 2. And so from a young age, I was always in front of a camera, and I just felt a connection with it. Yeah.
So was there an actor that you were starting to warm to, and you noticed in a few films like, I'm liking this guy, I want to see more from him?
Not so much. I think because I grew up on mainly like creature features. So like, for example, there was always a Godzilla movie on a Saturday evening at 1 a.m. that we'd had to set the timer for record. I was always into the monster movies, not so much the actors, but and then the Gremlins and all that sort of stuff. So I hadn't really taken or looked at actors' performances at that stage. I mean, I'm trying to think now of some of the Ghostbusters back in the 80s with your Bill Murrays and your Dan Aykroyds and stuff. I used to love Ghostbusters, but mainly because of the visuals, because of the ghosts, and because of the big Marshmallow Man and stuff, rather than looking at an actor's performance. And that was kind of what always drew me in was that. I loved all that sort of stuff. The monster creature features. There was always a creature feature double bill on a Saturday evening. It was always too late for me to stay up, but I would always watch it. the next day if it had recorded, because you never knew back in those days whether the VCR would record or not.
Amazing. I miss those days, and then getting all the adverts and fast forwarding through them, and amazing.
Yeah, they were always fuzzy and stuff, and they'd always go fuzzy when you didn't want them to. But yeah, I do miss those days.
And then the tape suddenly stops, and you're like, "Oh fuck! Literally, I've got 10 minutes of the film left. I really wanted to see the end, but it's gone."
Yeah, totally. Or you'd mislabel the tape.
So that's the worst.
Recorded over something really fucking good, and you were like, "No, that was my favourite Godzilla episode, and I've just recorded it over with like half of a crap Godzilla episode." Yeah, there was always that. But it was kind of weird. Like a couple of years ago, I went back to Brimscombe, to Bourne Lane, where I spent. Yeah, I had a lovely childhood, and I stood on Bourne Lane. I got my phone out to take a photo, and I realised that I'd never ever had a mobile phone on that lane where I grew up. Because mobiles weren't invented back then. It was always landlines. So It was really surreal, because I had this technology in my hand that, that we kind of used back in the day, but now it's all in one thing. And it was kind of weird to do that, to revisit it, but with, being more grown up.
So you mentioned obviously growing up with your two brothers and your father, John, and your dad's obviously a jazz musician.
Yes.
Was there pressure that you felt that you needed to go down that route to kind of, pass the baton and be the next musician in the family?
No, and again, just coming back onto the bit the point I just mentioned about being, having a lovely childhood. I really did, and my parents never. I call it. They never clipped my wings, so they never ever once turned around to me and said, "Mike, you have to do this. But if you want to do that, that's fine. But you have to do this." They never ever once did that. I think, like I say, my dad has been a musician. He's now doing jazz and blues, but he did, lots of covers when he was younger, and he's been in bands for about 6 decades, and I think because he was, a musician, he never wanted to put any restraints on any of us. He just allowed us to grow as ourselves, and when my cousin was becoming successful as an actor in a TV series called Sharp with Pete Postlethwaite and Sean Bean, it just seemed to fit the whole, the artistic angle from the family. So I think we sort of, as a family, just all got it, and we're just like, that's okay. Yeah, if you want to do it, go do it.
That's good. It's fortunate, because a lot of parents force them to want to kind of remold themselves and go by the mistakes they made, so they can then make their child the younger version of themselves. And it's nice that you're kind of given the free rein to become who you wanted.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, but you don't. The thing is, you only realise that when you get older, and you kind of you look back and think, do you know what? Not once did either my mum or dad say, no, you can't do that. Not once. And now my dad's, he's retired now, but he's my biggest fan. We've got a day's worth of interviews coming up, and he's like, can I drive you around? I want to drive you to them, and make sure somebody set the record button so that you can record the one that's on TV and stuff. And this is 30 years down the line, he's still really enthusiastic about seeing me, what I'm doing, and yeah, it's really lovely. I'm very fortunate like that. Not saying there's anything wrong with the way other people go about things, but yeah, I was very, very lucky to be brought up in that environment, certainly. And I think it definitely contributed, because you have to learn from your mistakes a lot of the time in this industry, and you have to face hard times, because it is really, really, really hard. As everybody knows, in any walk of life, if you want to become successful, it is extremely difficult, and you don't tend to nowadays on the social media aspect see that side of things. And I get it, I understand why, but it is very, very tough. I had a friend of mine messaged me and said, Mike, I see you're doing really well, and I'm thinking of like giving acting a try. And I had to get back to him straight away and say, look, whoa, you can't just give it a try. No. It's not. You have to sacrifice pretty much everything to fully, you got to go with very little money, or you've got to, as I've done, move away from your friends and family, and you can't just give it a try. That's not what it is. You've got to put everything into it. This is not just a hobby. This is a way of life. This is your career. So yeah, I don't try and sugarcoat it. If somebody asks me for advice, I do tell them quite straight that it is extremely tough, but it it's worth it. Is my point. And you kind of, life is very short. You got to do what makes you happy.
So then, we're talking now, kind of getting into your teenage years. Did you study kind of performing arts at secondary school and college and stuff, or?
No. I mean, we took drama class, obviously as part of the curriculum, which was back in the day that it was a choice thing. So I did choose drama as in school, but it wasn't. The thing is, I've realised that I'm not an academic. I'm an apprentice, and what I mean by that is that I don't. If you stuck me in a classroom and had somebody talk me through their process, you would lose me. I wouldn't gain anything from that. I need to be doing it, and I learn best from doing it. And then I made a conscious effort to stay what I call as raw as possible. So I purposely don't read up on other people's approaches to acting, because I want myself to be as individual as possible. I don't want to read about how somebody else went about doing it. Now, I'm not saying that that's a wrong way to go at all. I think I embrace anybody who knows their way of approaching acting and utilizes it as fantastic, because there's no right or wrong answer. But for me, I really have made an effort to try and stay as raw as possible, and try and carve out my own path, and not kind of follow too much, because the creative aspect of acting for me comes when you develop the script with the director and the writer and the other actors, and that means that you can approach it in the way that you see it in your head, not how somebody else would perceive it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I kind of had this in my head that I wanted to stay as raw as possible from my teen years as to my approach to acting, definitely.
So obviously, looking back at your IMDb and seeing some of the work you've been in, you did a couple of shorts, but one of your big breaks was the film Subconscious, and it was working with Georgia Hilton, a director that's obviously saw something in you and wanted to invest kind of a lot of time, and that must be quite a big experience to be in quite a big film that was a risk at that point, because you weren't really doing much, you weren't this big name, and she kind of gave you the screen time to prove yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. I couldn't have put it better, really. That was a fantastic sort of process for me, and I remember that part distinctly as well, where I was my agent at the time was over in America, and it was very lucky actually that I got on Georgia's radar, because my agent was over there doing something else, another project with another client, and met Georgia, and Georgia just happened to mention she was shooting this feature film called Subconscious, and there's one lead part that she's still waiting to cast. It's sort of this cheeky chappy sort of role, and my agent was just, whoa, hold the fort. I've got a guy that I think could do that, and mentioned my name, and then we went through the casting process, and Georgia liked the fact that there was a British element to the film when she hadn't planned it, so she had rewritten the role after she cast me to be a British paranormal investigator, which again was a huge compliment, because we had gone through quite a lengthy casting process. And then it was kind of this, going back to the point I made earlier, but I was sat there and the final draft got sent through to me, and I was living with a mate at a time in Stroud in Gloucestershire, and I thought to myself, if I'm going to do this, I need to be true to myself, which is that I don't hold back. It's all or nothing with me, and I'm going to need to do this all. So I remember that meant that I'm going to have to tell my housemate I'm moving out, which would mean that he would then have to find another place to live. And that was quite tough. So I bought a bottle of red wine. I went home, I sat there, drank about half of it. He sat on the other sofa, and I kind of sat there, and I went, look, mate,
this isn't working. It's not you, it's me.
Yeah, I kind of gave him that chat, yeah, and then we put Bridget Jones on and
kissed and made up, yeah.
And yeah, I just remember I just said to him, look, mate, I'm gonna this opportunity's come for a reason, and I'm gonna take it with everything I've got, which means I'm gonna sell everything that I own. I'm gonna take this opportunity, which will mean obviously that you're going to be moving out. And he turned around to me, and without even acknowledging kind of what I said, he just looked at me and he went, if there's one person that can do it, it's you. Go and do it. And I was just like, wow. I didn't.
Why did I bother buying the red wine? Why did I bother all this? I could have just told you over text.
Fuck me, I got £7.
Yeah.
For God's sake, I could have just. Jesus. Yeah. But I do remember that part. I was expecting him to go absolutely balmy at me, going, where do you expect me to live then? But he didn't. He was really, really supportive. And so I sold everything. Sold absolutely everything and went and shot the movie. So yeah, I do remember that. And it was very, very generous of Georgia to give me that, like you say, that opportunity.
So then last year, you got to work with one of the best up-and-coming movie makers, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree.
I'm not just saying it because I know him and we know Tom, but I think the guy's going to be the next big thing. I really do. Tom Payton out there right now is making films and writing films and doing stuff that people shouldn't be doing with that little budget. I don't know how he does it, but he's one to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was... Within this industry, it's very hard to necessarily find. It's difficult to find particularly good people in any industry. When I met Tom, I knew he was on the same path. It was just from the off. It was straight away that I just knew, like you said, that this guy's going somewhere. And yeah, so we the thing was that. I hadn't been on his radar when he was casting for Redwood. We had met and we'd spoken, but I wasn't on his radar. And it took George Burt, who was his DOP. I worked with George on another project, and it was actually George that recommended me to Tom. Said, look, if you had a look at Mike Beckingham, I think it'd be really good for this role. And then Tom was like, no, I hadn't. No, actually, yeah, let's have a look at him. And so we went through the casting process, and I think what's really important when you're certainly, it's not imperative, but I think it's important that you can connect off camera, off screen, and then when you want to transcend things onto screen, it just works because you respect each other. And when me and Tom first got together after the casting process to go to the pub to have a proper chat out and flesh out the character and all that sort of stuff, we literally just sat there and drank a few beers and didn't really talk about the film at all. We were just chewing the cud, just talking about any movie that we've seen and stuff like that. And it was just like, wow, do you know what? I just get on with this guy. He's just, not only is he immensely talented, but he's just a really cool guy that I can really relate to. So yeah, he is going places. There's no doubt about it.
So did he invite you to then come and audition for the part of Josh, or do you just go to the film set to want to be involved in this film, or how did it then pan out to you basically getting the main role in the film?
Yeah, so once George had sort of got me on Tom's radar, Tom and I then spoke, and Tom had said, look, the executive producers are looking at 4 or 5 guys for this role, and but I'm gonna push you because I think you'd be ideal for it. And so he was immediately supportive from the off. He wanted to give everybody a fair crack. We got down to the last 2, and just Tom really fought for me, which was very, very a huge compliment, and he just had that sort of character in his head that he wanted me to play, and so then once we had gone through the casting process and got down to the last 2, that was when he said to me, look, I'm going to be pushing you because I think you'd be great for it.
So what was it like then when he actually then turned that to reality, and it wasn't just hopefully he'll try, but it actually became the part of you are the lead acting in this film?
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things in this industry for me is being patient. A lot of people, I don't mind not, messing up auditions and stuff. I love the audition process. I think it's great. A lot of people don't, and I totally get why. But for me, the hardest point is being patient. And obviously, I think the other actor, I wasn't sure who it was, but I was very, very good as well. So the executive producers and Tom was having a chat and saying, look, is this who we going with and stuff. So that took a few days of just waiting and just not knowing, and that was very tough. But then when the call comes through and Thomas said, look, we're going to go with you, it was just like, wow, because it just felt like, you say, when you meet someone like Tom, you really do want to work with him, and we wanted to make it the right project, and it felt the right project, and it felt the right character, and it just sort of things just slotted into place. And it was but things then happened really quickly. I mean, once they cast the movie, we were out in Poland within, I think, a week or a week and a half. We were already on the plane going over there to start shooting, which is not long at all. We hadn't even done a tabletop read through at this point. In fact, we never did one because we didn't have time. So myself and Tatiana met for the first time at the Polish airport, and then we just that's the beauty of indie filmmaking, is that it is that fast pace a lot of the time, and you've gotta be, you're up against it, and it's wonderful for an actor, certainly for me. That pressure, I love that pressure, and it was very, to start with, it was kind of like we flew into Poland, and then the very next day we start shooting. It was like, wow. Me and Tatiana hadn't really even read a scene by this point. We started reading the scenes the night before to flesh, and then on set, because Tom is such a good director and he's a really actor's director, he worked with us as much as he could to start with the first couple of days, just to get that tone right and that feel right, and then he let us go about our thing.
I think that's a good thing though, because if you were there reading the scripts for weeks in studios like they do for these big companies like Universal and Sony and stuff, I think you can get too nervous and kind of not actually just get straight into the role soon enough. So to know you're kind of thrown in at the deep end and it's like, this is the actress you're going to be part of, you're going to meet her, and by the way, we're filming tomorrow. For me, I would love that. I'd be like, right, this is... Mate. It doesn't give me even time to digest it.
Both have their benefits, both have their benefits. And, as you look back as an actor, you're never truly happy with your performance because it will never be perfect. Nobody will ever. I think it was, in fact, Anthony Hopkins that said when he was 70 years old or something that he's still trying to perfect acting, because you never really perfect the art, which was a wonderful little sort of confidence booster for us who are kind of up and coming, to know that even an actor of his caliber will quite happily say that this wonderful art form of acting is never going to be fully perfected. But I totally agree with you. I think it's a fantastic way to cut your teeth, and to you can, like you say, totally, you can over prepare. I've over prepared for a lot of auditions sometimes, and I've had a week, a week's notice, which is quite a long time for auditions when you and I've over prepared for it, and you're absolutely right. You second guess yourself, and you don't just go in thinking how you would have initially approached it. You think, oh no, they might be looking for this, so I'm going to go this route or this direction. Yeah, you're completely right. And so, but then for big studio movies, they, with so much money on the line, they need to ensure that they're getting it right. And I think it was Tom Holland that was cast as Spider-Man, then had to keep it quiet or went through 6 months worth of auditions, I think.
Couldn't even tell his best friends or anything, and it's just crazy.
It's so there's benefits and cons, pros and cons to both approaches, but I do love indie filmmaking for that reason. That's
a really good point, that with indie film there's a lot more control. So Tom hasn't got studio interference all the time with people saying this isn't right, this isn't the kind of vision we went for. I've luckily been able to see Redwood, and I was absolutely buzzing when I got to see it at Horror Fest, and I got to see that it was getting out there and people were going to movie festivals and getting to see this. It wasn't just a small release that was only on YouTube. It was the fact I even saw it at one of was it the View or the Cineworld at listings? I was like, yes, yes, Tom, yes, Mike. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's been the traction that Redwood has picked up has been kind of crazy, because you obviously want to do the best job you can. And when Fright Fest came in and said that we're going to open up Fright Fest 2017 in Leicester Square, it was like, wow, what incredible support for an indie film you guys are showing us. We're up against Chucky and stuff. And it was just wonderful. It's been given some tremendous platforms now. Certainly even moving into the last week and a half, which we'll come on to. But yeah, it was. You don't ever set out with that in mind. It just happens. But with Redwood, it just seems to have grown and grown. And it's been really lovely, especially with we got told at the end of last year when they trialled it in Polish cinemas over a weekend, and then it was received so well that they rolled it out nationwide in Poland over December. And that was like, wow, we were happy for it just to be in cinemas just for the weekend. That was an achievement. And then they would turn around to us and say, no, we're rolling out nationwide to every cinema. I was like, wow, okay. Let me just get my head around that. But thank you. It's it's been incredible to see the traction and growth of this film. Like I said, Tom Payton wrote in 2 days. It's crazy but wonderful at the same time.
It's a really good film. It reminds me. I can see that Tom's probably watched stuff like. Oh, I want to say stuff like The Descent. I can see that kind of feel
absolutely.
for it.
Yeah, that you've hit the nail on the head. That was his major inspiration when writing it.
Good. And it's a good film. And I'm, you know me. I don't bullshit. I would say, come on, dude, it's wank. There's a lot better out there. But I enjoyed the film a lot, and I want to skip to that bit now and talk about the last couple of weeks, because it's not just been this little film that's gone on Poland, been extended. There's been some big news over the last couple of weeks. So talk to me.
Yeah. So last Monday I woke up, and I don't know about you, but I have the routine where you go and make yourself a coffee, and then you sit back down and sort of used to go through the papers. Now it's the social media stuff.
Get on Twitter, get on Facebook, get on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. You do. You check your socials. That's what we do now. That's how we roll. So I was kind of half awake and half asleep with this coffee waiting to cool down enough to drink it. And I went on Twitter, and the first thing I saw was Tatiana, who plays Beth in the movie, had been nominated for a National Film Award. And I was like, what? I was like, that's massive. That's so good. So I messaged her straight away, and I was like, Tatiana, you congratulations, babe. You totally deserve it. Well done. This is huge. And then I messaged Tom to say, have you seen Tatiana's been nominated for a National Film Award? And then half an hour later, he phones me back and says, yes, I've seen it now. It's on Twitter, and it's great, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, I'm over the moon for her. And then he turned around and went, well, there's big congratulations to you too. And you've been nominated for Best Actor. And I was like, sorry, what? And it was just, I kind of went into a trance for about 36 hours, I think. But it was, and by the way, he said, and we've been nominated for Best Thriller as well. And I was like, what? We're up for 3 National Film Awards. When we didn't even realise that we were being put in front of the panel. None of us knew. This was the first that we had heard of it. So I was kind of like, they had announced it, Tatiana's on Twitter, the National Film Awards, and then Tom was like, haven't you been on the website? And I was like, no, I can't get on the website. It won't let me. And it turned out subsequently that on the 15th of January, when the National Film Awards launched the nominees, they had over 1 million votes that one day, and it shut the website down for like days.
That was all your dad just hitting there clicking you.
Do you know what I mean? I don't want to say that.
But yeah.
I mean, the other actors are quite well known.
Yeah,
in the category. Yeah. They're reasonably well known. No, they're extremely talented. But yeah, so I couldn't check for like 2 or 3 days on the website to ensure that it was actually. Tom had sent me screen prints and screen dumps of the website, but I was still like, I need to see it. So yeah, so it's been completely overwhelming, but in a wonderful way, And I think, like I say, it's like you don't ever set out for that to happen when you're making a movie. At least I don't, anyway. You focus purely on the character and on making on that project. But you obviously want your performances to resonate. Now, whether that's resonate with an audience, so whether that's a cinematic audience, whether that's a family at home in the front room, or whether it's a panel of judges, you want it to resonate. And obviously, it was enough for the National Film Awards to shortlist it and shortlist myself and Tatiana, and that was a huge honour, and completely unexpected. And to put it on that platform is incredible.
So for the listeners right now that are all getting kind of juiced up and left dangling, when are they going to get to see the film? Is there any announcement that they can get to see
March.
This March? This
March, yeah. So voting for the National Film Awards doesn't close until the 20th of March, but they're going to be able to catch the movie this March, yeah.
Awesome. So that's literally only a few weeks away.
Only a few weeks away to wait now, yeah.
Brilliant. So the most recent film, which I'm the most excited about because our good friend Danny is making a cameo in the film, and it's sure...
Yeah, he rocked that, yeah.
And your return to working with the legend Tom again, so you're reunited, is for Black Site, and this looks nothing like Redwood. This looks futuristic. It's got elements of, I want to say stuff like I want to say Blade Runner, but it isn't Blade Runner. But it's got that element of kind of Matrix. It's
I'd say Escape from New York.
That's pretty damn good. Yeah, it's got that kind of retro vibe, but it has still got that sci-fi, futuristic. It's gritty, but it's polished. It's great.
Yeah, totally. And this is kind of Tom's baby, where he's had full creative control over this. He's written the script and got it financed himself and things like that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's completely different to Redwood in so much as it's very much a sci-fi action movie, wonderfully female driven, with a lot of martial arts in there, quite violent in places, and a very science fiction story as the main storyline. Yeah.
So you're playing the part of Sam?
Yes. Yeah.
And I was watching some of your Instagram, and you were like doing full-on days of training in martial arts. It isn't just we'll try and make it look like you are. You were having your body put through the tests. Yeah.
It was. I mean, my Sam Levy, who's my character in the movie, he's not a fighter. He's the kind of human element to the story, in so much as when you see what these girls can do, you'll just be, as an audience, sort of watching it going, wow. Whereas Sam is the guy who just really sort of doesn't do. He's not that martial artist kind of guy. However, there are times in the story, in the film, when Sam has to get his hands dirty, and so yeah, we had to choreograph a fight and go into fight training and all that sort of stuff, which was I've done some hand-to-hand stuff before, and it's great. It's great to see it come together and develop, and then see it on screen. You know, the fight that you've just done. But a lot of which was incredible, the whole process, the fight scenes that the girls were doing should have taken a week really to choreograph, but they were literally doing 2 hours of training and blocking and then shooting. They were shooting, and it was like, wow, the turnaround time on these fight scenes were just incredible, and that's testament to their talent, obviously.
It's so different. I mean, I've only seen bits. I've seen little clips from the film. I've not been able to see the final thing. I know. Is it being edited as we speak? It hasn't completely finished, has it, right now?
No, it is in edit at the moment. So yeah it's not completely finished.
And what I have seen, honestly, it's crazy how much he does with editing and the After Effects, because you'll see this scene and can't believe like these neon lights and everything's been put in afterwards, and it blows your mind how good it looks when he was just in like a underground bunker, and it blows my mind how good he's made those sets look.
Yeah, and he's doing all he does a lot of the post stuff himself as well. He's very much an editor, so he films, he directs with the edit in mind. You know, he knows exactly what he's looking for and how it's going to fit together and slot together. So yeah, his whole process at the age, I think he's 31 at the moment, and is just incredible. You know, it's his whole style of how he approaches it and on a day-to-day basis is and how he commands his set. It's just remarkable, really.
It's inspiring, and the confidence he's got and the way he is fully deserved, because he can back it up with the product. You might get some people that are kind of not arrogant but too full of themselves, and you think, hang on a minute, what have you done? But this guy knows what he's doing, and that's why I'm really looking forward to speaking with him and getting him on, because he is one to watch. If I had to put money on anyone, he is going to be the next big thing, and I can't wait to see how far he goes.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I'll be honest, he's brought me on so much as an actor as well, working with him and allowing me. He's very much an actor's director. You know, he allows me to bounce stuff off of him, and he'll say, "Yeah, let's try that." And then he'll be like, "That didn't work," and stuff. And it really does allow you to feel a part of the creative process, obviously. And yeah, he's brought me on as an actor. You know, so over the last few years of working with him, you know, yeah, it's only a matter of time before somebody sees what he can do with a little money, and then give him a lot of money, and he'll be knocking out of the park. You know, he's a tremendous talent.
So we talked about the days that you had to go and tell your housemate that you're ready to pack up and you're selling everything on eBay and about to go and make your first major big film. And now we're 2-3 years later. What is it looking like for you now? Obviously, you never look back. You don't regret it because you've got some good films under you. But what's your kind of plan now at this point?
Well, so at the moment I'm in talks for 4 films this year, but because nothing's been signed, I don't want to say too much. I don't like to get ahead of myself.
No, but at least there's stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah, and they're 4 very different genre films, which for me is really important because as an actor, what I want to show is range. And I really that's really important to me. So yeah, I think if one of the movies is being shot in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro over the summer, that would be a fantastic experience to go out there and shoot a movie. So yeah, if any of these sort of come about or happen, then it would be an incredible year for me. But then saying that, something might come out of left field, a project might come out of left field and completely change my year into something amazing, but in a completely different way. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm excited for 2018, and I couldn't have asked for a better start really with the National Film Awards supporting Redwood as they have done. It's been
a good one for the CV, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just been very overwhelming.
Yeah, you're still kind of not. It doesn't seem real. I know it was only so recent, but you're still kind of like, shit, that did happen. It wasn't a dream.
I am like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But trying to embrace it as best I can.
What I want to look at is the future, and those people that are listening to the podcast now, and this is the reason I do it, is to inspire people. I want people to pick up an iPhone and record their first ever podcast. I want people to get a camera. Luckily, it's not like these VHS cameras that you and your brothers and dad had, but make a film. Go out there and just go for it because you've got nothing to lose. But what advice from someone that is making very good progress would you give to those people that are thinking about, could I be an actor? They're not 3 years old and listening like you when you started, but they are listening now thinking, I wouldn't mind doing that. That's the sort of career I want.
I would say the one thing is never too late. Don't ever listen to anybody that says you're too old to do something, because that's rubbish. And I would just say, 1, be a good person, and 2, do what ignites your soul. So if it's directing, then focus on directing. If it's being an actor, then focus on being an actor. Find out what works for you, because there's 1,000 ways up the mountain. You just got to find which path is right for you. And so, yeah, I would just, there's the only, I think it's quite a common saying, it's the only hurdles that you put in front of yourself is what is in your mind, and it's very true. Just, if you want to do it, go and do it, but you got to do it all or nothing. It's not something that you can just dip your toe in the water and try. You have to go for it, but go for it if it's what you want.
It kind of comes back to at the start when you said that person turned around to you and said they wouldn't mind giving it a try. It's not a bloody new type of Mars bar that you just give it a try.
No.
There's a big difference, and as a podcaster, there's such a difference when people say, yeah, I reckon I could do podcasting. It's like you have no idea. To want to podcast and record with your friends is one thing, but if you want to become the big thing and get to the next level, it isn't
to
just
the level
doing
you're
it.
Going at. Yeah, absolutely.
It needs to be something you live and breathe. And people can say, yeah. No, that's loving something. That's wanting it. You actually need to breathe it. You need to sell all your belongings, like you said, and take some absolute crazy risks where people will look at you as if you're mental. But you're not. You're just passionate, and you want to be that person you've set out to do.
That's exactly it. And it's not, as I said to you before, it's not an easy journey. It doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't. And you look at one of our favourite films, Jaws. If they had stopped filming because they had troubles with the shark, then the film would never have got made. If they'd have given up on the first hurdle, the film would never have got made. But they persisted, and with all the troubles and tribulations they had making that movie, look what they came out with. It's
scary.
One of the greatest films ever.
Our love for that is, I always see on Twitter and stuff, but me and you are obsessed. But it's unhealthy how much we love that film. But it
slightly.
I can genuinely put my hand on my heart and say that not ever a day goes past where I don't think about Jaws, and it inspires me, because Spielberg should have walked off that set and gone, fuck this, I'm not doing it.
Right.
You've heard my interview with Carl Gottlieb. He was there having a mental breakdown, writing the script as they're filming. Actors are hating each other, getting drunk, everything is going wrong, but they produced the perfect film and an absolute masterpiece. And for me, there's no better example of persistence, because if the payoff is that good, fucking hell, go for any obstacle that comes your way, jump over it, because you could make Jaws.
That's exactly what the message that's portraying is exactly it. And Jaws is the definitive. You know, it really is. So yeah.
I want to go and watch Jaws now. Piss off, Mike. I want to go and watch Jaws.
We're going to stick it on now, actually. Yeah.
If I go on ITV2 now, it'll be on anyway.
It'll be on somewhere, won't it? It always is. There was a funny story about that. I can relate to Jaws. So it was quite a surreal moment. I was sat watching Jaws, and my phone went, and it was my agent, and they said, "Look, I've got an audition for you," and I was like, "Okay, fantastic." And they said it's on Thursday, and I was like, "Okay, cool." Oh, I can't do Thursday. I'm working. I've got something else on, and but can I self tape? And they said, "Well, not really." And I said, "Okay, why?" And they said, "Well, because it's for Spielberg." And I was like, "What now?" And they said, yeah, it's for Spielberg, yeah. And so I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to cancel whatever it is going on Thursday, and I'm going to go in. And I went in and saw Lucy Bevan, who was the casting director, who's a massive casting director, huge casting director. And we went in, we did a couple of scenes together, and subsequently found out that she actually forwarded my tape to Spielberg to have a look at. Didn't get the part, but it was a very surreal moment to be even looked at by. I don't know if Sir Steven Spielberg did actually view my tape, but it was what I was told, and it was quite, just for me to be watching Jaws when that phone call came in was quite weird, and that was for Ready Player One, so
which we can't wait for. That's going to be a nostalgia trip and a half.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of Easter eggs that are in this movie is incredible. I think the casting is spot on. I think Ty Sheridan is fantastic. I just think they've got a lot right with that movie. And I think a lot of people enjoy it. It's one of the best books I've ever read, so I think it'll be a fantastic movie.
I was really worried, because I'm such a lover of the book. I was like, it's wrote for me. It's like anyone that's grew up in the 80s.
Geeking out, big time.
And when I saw the trailer, I was like, yeah, it's right, it's absolutely fine. What was I worrying about? It was given to the right hands to deliver the goods. And
I think they generally have done. I think it was, I think from what I can see from the trailer and stuff, it's going to be a biggie. It's going to be a big film, and I think they're going to nail it, because the book, like you said, is fantastic. Absolutely geeking out over that book.
Right then, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I hope the listeners out there have got a really good insight, because obviously when I interview people like Anthony Hopkins and people, they've lived, they've told the story. But what I liked about speaking with you is you're just starting your journey, and it's going to be exciting to just see where this takes you.
And I really appreciate the support, mate, so thank you for chatting with me.
So there's my interview with me and Mike. As I said at the start, a really, really nice guy. We clicked instantly. We kind of hit it off instantly. And you could probably hear on the interview, it's like talking to one of my best friends. I'm so, so grateful I got some time with him, and he's going to be a name that you're going to hear a lot more of. I can't say anything right now, but I've been texting and speaking with him regularly, and there's some big announcements coming over the next few weeks, and you will be seeing a lot more of him. So it's kind of that nice feeling of I've got him now while I can, because in a year or two I believe he will be in some big, big blockbusters. And, hopefully he'll come back and talk about that when he's world famous and everyone's asking for time with him. A big thanks to Mike for coming on the show. I hope you had a blast. I know I did. Thanks for you guys out there listening and tuning in each episode. What's really good at the moment is I'm getting a lot of response. So behind the scenes, I'm always working to try and speak to people from every kind of walk of life. I want documentary makers, I want actors, I even want people in the music industry. If someone has a valid and genuine story to tell, I'm going to be there with a microphone trying to interview them, because it just makes really good listening, finding out something you didn't know about someone, and it just goes with the flow, and I really enjoy doing it. So as I said, right now I'm working really, really hard, and the interviews are coming in quite fast. As I'm speaking now, I've got another 3 interviews to do this week and another 3 or 4 next week. So expect lots and lots of brand new episodes from Mark and me in the next few months. As always, please check markandme.com. I'm on Spotify now. It's been a great response on there. I'm seeing a lot more listeners from all over the world, so it's been a great thing. I'm on Podomatic, I'm on Stitcher, I'm on iTunes, but if you just go on markandme.com, you can get access to my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram, and all I ask for is you to let me know if you're enjoying the episodes, leave an iTunes rating, just let me know that you're listening and having a blast, and as long as you are, the episodes will keep coming. So as always, everyone, take care of yourself, thanks for listening, and I'm sure you'll hear from me again in around 2 weeks' time. Take care.